The Blind Beggar. The Blind Beggar, which is John 9, 1 through 41. I think just the way that it happens, I think we'll just read a little bit of it at a time and talk about it as we go. When we think about where this is in the scope of things, you know, when you look at the commentators, they're not exactly sure if this is like exactly like just right after what had just happened. Because shortly after what we see in chapter 9, it's at the Feast of Dedication.
What do you mean between 9 and 10?
I'm saying like in 8 or 7, we were at Tabernacles, right? And he went up to Tabernacles, and you know, he was there with the last great day, and they said go, and he said he wasn't going, but then he did go. And he was there in the temple for some time while nothing was happening to him until he said, I guess, too much. And then the people tried to make something happen to him, and he escaped. And so this in chapter 9 could be right after he left from there, or it could be just a little bit later. It's not exactly sure about the when of it, but it is you know, in close proximity, if not just right after. But if we look over at John 9, I think let's read from verse 1. Let's just start with just reading from 1 to 12.
John chapter 9, verse 1. And passing by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his taught ones asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he should be born blind? Yeshua answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of Elohim might be made manifest in him. It is necessary for me to work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming, when no one is able to work. While I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. Having said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva and applied the clay to the eyes of the blind man. And he said to him, go wash in the pool of Shiloh, which means sent. So he went and washed and came seeing. Therefore, the neighbors and those who saw him before, that he was blind, said, is not this he who was sitting and begging? Others said, this is he. Others said, he is like him. He said, I am. So they said to him, how were your eyes open? He answered and said, a man called Yeshua made clay and applied it to my eyes and said to me, go to the pool of Shiloh and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight. And they said to him, where is he? He said, I don't know.
Okay, very good. So we see here that Yeshua, as he's who is, as it says, blind from birth. He's always been blind. There was never a time that he wasn't blind. And the disciples, his taught ones, asked this interesting question. Which it leads me to believe that they too know. As we read on, we know that the people around knew who he was. To say that, oh, that's, what's his name? That he's always been blind. And so it seems that the disciples too know at least who he is based on the fact that he's been blind from birth. You know, if you was in the city in a certain amount of time, in a certain time period, and you frequented downtown, you would know about the guy who had the radio who would be downtown singing, the old guy.
The opera singer guy.
I don't know. Now you might know more about him than me. I didn't never know he was in the opera
That's
before,
not what he's saying. I don't know.
but he would be downtown singing. I don't know what happened. I mean, I don't know if he's still in the land.
He's blind, right?
He was blind too.
Yeah, he was blind.
Yeah.
Kind of like a heavy set guy.
Yeah.
Be downtown. He had a big like boom box with him,
just
and he would just be down there singing. You know.
Or the guy, there was the guy, remember he used to preach the gospel, he'd be out in front of McDonald's yelling out to the street. You remember him?
Yeah. Yes.
There's people, if you was in the city and they was
You
always.
know,
listening.
yeah, they were known for various
years.
things, this or that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy was known for being somewhere they knew that he was a beggar. But it says that he was blind from birth. And then verse 2, his top ones asked him this question and say, who sinned? Him or his parents? That he should be born blind. Which I thought was an interesting question, because in order for him to be born blind as a result of something that he did, he would have to have done something in the womb. Because when he was born, he was blind, and they're asking, was his sin, is the reason that he was born blind because of something that he did or something that his parents did? Which I thought was interesting, because what are they talking about? How could he have done something to cause his own self to be blind when he was born? Question mark.
That he was gonna do something and he just got
Huh?
preemptively.
What?
He got preemptively punished so that he wouldn't be able to do the thing that he might want to do.
Oh, his blindness. Well, I think that, first of all, I think that Yeshua says, he gives the answer, right? But my question is, what made the disciples think about that line of questioning? As if to say, there's something that a baby, that an unborn child can do to bring on or bring about a judgment. I don't know. This thing, this blindness. Again, Yeshua, of course, says that it wasn't either one of those things. But I'm saying that the thought that they had that caused them to even think about, either this was just some like frivolous question, or maybe perhaps there was some idea that they had to cause them to think about this unborn child calling sin upon himself, potentially.
I got a theory. Y'all know Second Ezra is my favorite book, so right here, I'm gonna read Second Ezra 14 and 34. It says, therefore, if so be that ye subdue your own understanding and perform your hearts, ye shall be kept alive, and after death you shall obtain mercy. For after death shall the judgment come, and when we shall live again, and then shall the names of the righteous be manifest, and the works of the ungodly shall be declared. Ezra was before Yeshua. So I'm just saying, like, me personally, like when I look at it, even Yeshua himself, when he was talking to the men, he said, look, y'all gonna have to prophesy to this same flesh and people again in the regeneration. That's just my thought process. I ain't gonna get too deep in it.
Okay, so maybe their idea of living again wasn't what we think of in terms of the way that Yeshua speaks of it, because of course that would have been written before Yeshua comes. Mm-hmm. And so maybe this idea of being born again may have been a thought process for them to even ask the question. And so, I'm not sure of what exactly the ideas of the Pharisees in regards to, because the idea of resurrection is an idea, but its connection to, somebody said something about reincarnation, its connection to reincarnation, I'm not exactly sure what their exact thoughts were about the idea of born again, this idea of resurrection. Right? They had an idea of resurrection. The Sadducees are known to have not had an idea of resurrection, but to what end? What did that mean for them? Did it mean that you was going to live and then die and then come back as someone else? Like what? I'm not sure exactly what their thoughts may have been, but if you had that idea, you could think about the fact that, in another life he must have been wicked, and then he came back and was still dealing with the things that he did in the other life. It wasn't such a foreign idea to think about, just to have that in your mind per se. And I don't think that it's unreasonable to think that they didn't have the same thought that we might have, because again, we're thinking about before Yeshua comes.
He didn't teach that resurrection happens after
everything's said and done.
Yes. And then now you're in the world to come.
Yeah.
So Christian said, I don't think they knew. He has the most easy way around this. He says, I don't think they knew he was blind from birth, only the master knew. That's the easiest explanation.
I mean, okay, maybe. But I would say, I feel like they knew. I feel like everybody knew, and this is the issue. This becomes the issue, the fact that everybody did know. How's he able to see now? Like, what is this? But anyway, I mean, we can't know really the motivation for the question. What we do know is what Yeshua said, that neither one of those things is the case. Not because of what he did, not because, you know what? I talked about the one idea, but what about the other one? His parents. I feel like an easier idea to think about is the fact that he would be suffering because of something that his parents did. That's, to me, I feel like that's easy. You think about, and it's interesting, I was looking at some of these things that people had to say about this idea. And, when you think about someone who is born out of a sinful situation, and to some people who aren't living for the Most High. And so these people, these parents are, they're heathens, let's say. And they birth heathens, right? And their whole life, everything that they do is something that's contrary to the Most High. So they can't teach their child righteousness because they don't even know righteousness. And so that child then would in fact suffer the consequences of his parents. Because he potentially could be shielded from righteousness his whole life. I don't want to say shielded because you're not shielded, you're blocked from it, right? And you think about the amount of people that, you know, are just so disconnected from the Most High only because of who their parents are. I mean, the parents could have been like on crack, and the baby is a crack baby because of what their parents have done, right? And so I don't know what that is necessarily, like what happens to a child as a result of their parents smoking crack, but there's like it potentially causes some physiological things to you. Potentially, I don't know.
I mean, even they come out, they might be addicted to
Maybe. Did you have something to say?
I was part of that.
Okay, I don't mean to be offensive.
No, it's okay. Praise God.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
But see, it's a testimony that
Hallelujah.
you can get through it.
Hallelujah.
Like,
He's there to broken the load. He's there. You know,
Yeah.
You come and seek him out here.
Yes.
and that's because, for instance, my mother-in-law, she, you know, Ebony's mom, like, you can see somebody who uses that, and then to see her children, I don't think she did it with them, but like, she was barely operational,
Yeah.
and you can kind of see the effects that it had on them, but then to see them be able to walk out of it
Yeah.
and still find the path, that's all that
It's
counts.
the Most High.
If you got a conscience and you can breathe, you can get back to the Most High. That's what I believe. Yeah.
Well then, in regards to what you're saying, so if the parents are sinful and the child is born, the child is allowed to be born because the plans for the child was already ordained by God. So later in life, he drew near to you because he already had plans for you later in life. So that connection, right? I'm thinking now that connection, that child was already set forth. Look at Moses. Okay, I'm not saying, because Moses had parents, they were Levites, but the purpose of Moses was because they outcried the people. So he brought forth a justifiable child through parents. But what I'm leaning at is that child was chosen to lead his children out of bondage, but that was God's will. So it kind of leans to God to use anybody in his favor, no matter where you come from. So
I think yes, absolutely yes, with no buts. What you said. I'm simply saying that it's also possible for somebody to come forth, be born in a messed up situation and don't never come.
Right.
And it's only because of the fact that the gospel never touched them, because of where they were was just that. It just was that. And that's the reality, and that's the only thing that they ever seen. And so both things are true. But the point is that I'm saying that a child in various degrees can in fact suffer because of something that their parents did.
and even within culture, because when I was in college, I remember talking to someone about, I don't believe in evolution or whatever. And so I was just speaking about, what I believe in, which is what the Bible says. And so this girl comes up to me and she was like, I need more information about what you were talking about. She was like, you don't believe in evolution, question mark. And I said, no, there's different opinions on this matter. And she was like, oh, I've never heard of any different opinions. And so I'm like, well, where are you from? And she was from Japan.
Interesting.
And in Japan, it's totally a secular culture, or at least at that time, wherever she was at in Japan. I don't want to generalize. I didn't fact check. But from her experience, she never even really considered the Bible at all. And so that was like an opportunity for me to like talk to her about the Bible, preach the gospel to her, explain some things to her. But these were genuinely things she had never heard of. And it was just like, at first I didn't understand how I've never heard of it. So.
That lid is not all.
What's happening?
Okay. All right. So very good. So let's look at verse. Let's look at 4 and 5. Can you read 4 and 5 again?
4 and 5. It is necessary for me to work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one is able to work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world.
Okay, very good. I thought this was interesting for a few different reasons. One being, because of this set apart life that we live in and people's different definitions for what day is, I think that one of the daytime only people's things that they might look at, besides Yeshua saying there's 12 hours in a day, is the fact that you're unable to work, it says there, at night. And so day's only the part where you can work. But Yeshua here obviously is speaking from a spiritual perspective, dealing with the fact that when he's there is the time. There's going to be a time when he's not there, when you're not able to experience these things that he's bringing. We have an opportunity, everyone has an opportunity to be able to accept Yeshua as their Savior. But there will be a time when you don't have that opportunity. And so he's talking about the fact that, he's got things to do. And those things that he has to do is, they're inside of a window of time. But there is a time coming when, the things that he is doing aren't going to be available so readily. But it's interesting that again, he says this again, this idea of being the light of the world. We talked about this the other week, this idea of being the light of the world, being the one, Yeshua, who is shedding spiritual light to this dark and dead world. He is the one who is expressing, making available life to this world. And the fact that he's doing this in the context of which he's doing it, and these people who are supposed to be followers of the Most High, these people who are supposed to be knowledgeable in the word of the Almighty, for them to witness the light of the world, for them to witness life manifest and not be able to see it, is an interesting thing. Because when we look at what is about to happen, it's interesting that the people who should see these things and know that Yeshua is who he says he is, the people who should see what's going on and believe as a result of what they see, but they don't believe, it lets you know where their actual hearts, where their heart is. We read down to 12.
Yeah.
And so we see this interesting thing with Yeshua, who is kind of. Did we read another part of Yeshua actually using like spit to in healing up to this point?
Because he does it in another place. I don't think this is the only place.
Up
we didn't get
into
to it.
this
Yeah, but
point.
this time we didn't get to
I
it.
mean, it's interesting, but
Spit is an interesting thing.
it is interesting.
And, you know,
We had the conversation about spit before. I don't know why.
I can go and say.
What was we talking about?
Well, so the psychology of spit. We're talking about the psychology of spit.
Oh, we was talking about it differently. Okay.
Well, if you think about it, we told everybody to spit into a cup and then drink your spit.
Look,
But it's in your mouth right now, though, right? And you're swallowing it right now, right? So the psychology of spit is that as soon as it comes out of your mouth,
Yes, it's dirty.
it's dirty, right?
It's dirty. Unclean.
But it's like even if you just spit and then swallow it right away, right? Even if you don't even give it that much time to penetrate the air and the atmosphere and bacteria or whatever, it's like this unclean thing.
Yeah.
And all humans have this thought of, well, I don't know, whatever. culture.
most do. Everyone here does. It was like a gas.
But there's this psychology that as soon as you
It's the air. It's the air that's dirty because you swallow spit. The only thing that's different is that it touched air, so the air must be dirty. But you breathe it. But you breathe it. There's no way to fix it. It just doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. But I also agree that if I did that, it would be nasty to drink it back again.
Yeah.
What is that? That's some kind of thing. I don't know. But maybe it was some learned thing that we do now because Yeshua here spit, and they knew that he did it because they wrote it down. He spit and made some clay, and then they was like, "Oh, what's he doing?" And then, well, the guy couldn't he couldn't move because he was blind, so he didn't know.
He didn't see what he was doing.
The people, and nobody stopped him from doing it. Like, "Ooh, master, what are you doing?" I don't know, but I just thought that was kind of interesting that this is the way that he did it, but
It worked. So
It's medicine.
yeah.
I just wanted to add that in the Torah, spit was used like as a announcing of something being
Oh, yeah.
cursed or some type of a disrespect
yeah.
had happened. And so you spit as a reminder or as like a semblance of this thing being found.
Yeah.
So say for example, the law of a brother taking his sister-in-law if he dies.
Mhm.
So she was
Deliver.
supposed to stay within the family tribe and raise up seed to his brother or to her, deceased husband. If he didn't do that, then she was supposed to lose her shoe and spit.
Yes, yes.
So
Hold on, find that. What's that? Where that verse at? Read that verse. Find that verse.
It's Deuteronomy 25:9.
Okay. Deuteronomy 25, verse 9. Then his brother's wife shall come to him in the presence of the elders and remove his sandal from his foot and shall spit in his face and answer and say, thus is done to the man who does not build up his brother's house.
So it was even worse than what I
It's a curse.
I thought it was on the
It's like a curse that's happening. Like it's like a ceremonial curse. You take the shoe. What do you do with the shoe?
Where's the shoe at? Remove the sandal from his foot, and that we don't say what.
Or
to
you
do.
take the shoe off of him
Yeah.
and spit in his face.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like a ceremonial curse thing that happened. And so I feel like there wasn't never a time when like spit was like a good thing.
Out of your mouth.
Out of your mouth. Like it was always a thing. Like, which is interesting because it talks about the fact that Yeshua actually became a curse for us.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that that saves us is the fact that he turned into a literal curse. And so for him to save this man by doing this supposed cursed thing is kind of interesting. Where he spits into this mud and makes clay that turns into like the part of what this, because he could have just said, just be healed, because he's done that already.
Or just go dunk into the.
He could have just skipped to the other part, just go over there and wash and be healed. But he goes through this thing, why? But I think that thinking about,
Maybe he was spitting on the blindness. He ain't like it.
but it was part of his healing though, this curse.
I'm messing with
The thing that he did was a curse.
you. Yeah.
But it was part of his healing and it was a necessary part.
Mhm.
And so I think that, it just brings about that idea of, kind of showing us the fact that, this thing that Yeshua has done for us, it comes from his salvation comes through this dark place. That's a curse. And he takes it on as part of our redemption.
I have a question since you said that. So are you saying, that I might be wrong when I ask this question. Are you saying, so this man, and just think, like you said before, okay, so his parents did wrong, it was a sin, that's why he came out blind. So are you saying that Yahshua, in a sense, when he spit, right, and he put the clay on his eyes, he took the sin from him, so he was able to, the sin was drawn from him, so in faith, his eyes was open and he was able to see. Is that what you're saying?
Hold on, say that again. I'm trying to understand what yours.
So what I was saying is, from what you partly said, is it that the man sinned because of the sin of his parents? He was blinded, but because of Yahshua, able to take sin from people, spitting on the clay, putting on his eyes, basically he was taking the sins of the parents off of him, so his eyes was open. Are you saying that?
No, I'm not saying that because Yeshua said that he was blind not because of his own sin or his parents' sin, but to glorify the Most High. And so the reason why he was blind from birth didn't have anything to do with sin. I just was kind of just asking what made the disciples think to ask the question. And then we kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there. But the reason why he was blind was so that all of his whole life, however old he was, the reason that he was blind so Yeshua could walk past right here and see him and heal him. And so all the people who end up believing as a result of that thing to give glory to the Most High. And it wasn't even connected to sin at all. Necessarily. Oh, go ahead.
Can I ask I want to ask a question and kind of make a statement, because I was looking at Leviticus 15 and 8, which talks about the issue of spitting on a person if that person is unclean and they spit on another person, then that person becomes unclean and leaves the presence. So because Yeshua was not clean, that spit could not have been unclean.
Oh, you said because he wasn't unclean.
So
Okay.
we look at like bodily fluids that are unclean automatically, but spit is not one of them. Is that a correct statement?
I like that. I like what you're saying. I like where your mind is going on that. And I wasn't necessarily saying that he was unclean because Yeshua spit on him. I just was thinking about the idea, like how it's thought of Like you thought about it again, and so it's like this thing. And then even the verse that you're talking about, just the idea of it, like whatever uncleanness you got, it transfers even through the spit. And so, but so to think about the fact that yes, maybe no uncleanness could come from Yeshua because he wasn't unclean. I think more so that which, I like that. I like the fact that Yeshua's, even his spit is something that brings healing. Like there's everything about him is healing. But I think more so is just the idea of spit. Just the thought of it, I think, is more so, where I'm leaning at. Not to say that it was nasty, but just we think of it as nasty.
Yeah.
And then everybody who's seen it, maybe so too, because there's no good way to think about spit. Even at the time somebody's cursing you, they fake spit. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like a
Well, you know how moms say you trying to fix their little babies up with their spit. That just came to my mind.
My mom used to do that. I hated it. Oh, you got something on your cheek.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
But he said Yeshua made clay. He didn't know what that was in the oven.
That's the only part he knew, is that there was some clay that was made.
Oh yeah.
But I'm saying the people who's documenting this scene, what happened to him, just clay was made. He ain't even know the intricate parts of the thing. Just clay was made and was put on him, and then he was healed. All right, let's keep on going a little bit, because now we got some things that's going on here. Let's go from 13. Let's go from 13 to. Just read 13 to 16 here.
So they brought to the Pharisees the one who was once blind. Now it was a Sabbath when Yeshua made the clay and opened his eyes. Therefore the Pharisees also asked him again how he had received his sight. And he said to them, he put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and I see. Therefore some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from Elohim, because he does not guard the Sabbath. Others said, how is this is a man who is a sinner able to do such miracles? And there was a division among them. Okay,
very good. So you enter in the Pharisees. This thing happens, it's out on the street. People, it first talks about the neighbors and others that was around, or, they see this guy who's a known blind person, and he's able to see. So they have their thoughts and things, but now this word's going around, and then they bring him over to the Pharisees, this guy who was once blind. And then the thing that they see is, oh, wait a second. It was the Shabbat. How are you healing on the Shabbat? And then they not even thinking about anymore now the fact that, this miracle was done, but the fact that, this man, he don't guard the Sabbath. So how is he somebody that you're supposed to be looking at, because he is this Sabbath breaker? And it's interesting when we think about people, I think, who don't really understand this culture that they had at this time in terms of, where they stood with the oral traditions. With these oral traditions, these traditions of men that the Pharisees that they practice, it's interesting the weight that was put on these traditions, but it's also interesting the differences among the Pharisees, because when you look at from a cultural perspective, there wasn't like some orthodoxy in Pharisaical thought, like one way that they did, because there were various schools, there were various ideas, and depending on what school you were on, was to say like what the way that you kept a particular law. When we look at the Torah say don't work on the Shabbat. But then now, how do you define what that is? How do you say what that means? Like, what is the specifics? It's giving you a general thing, but specifically, what are you talking about? And then so in these various schools, they have various thoughts about things. And so it's interesting. One thing that I found in terms of what these, what was kind of the thought process of some of these people, that, because Yeshua comes and he heals this man's blindness. And so one thing that one of these schools of rabbis, they say, it says an eye that is flowing may be covered with ointment on the Sabbath. And then from these words, one could conclude that there is, it says, one could conclude that this is true if the spices were ground the day before, but not if they were ground on the Sabbath and carried through a public domain. Because you couldn't carry things outside of your domicile on the Shabbat. And so if you was somewhere and you just happened to have, I don't know how you would have the spices necessary to do it, but in theory, you can cover someone with ointment on the Shabbat, but you couldn't necessarily make the ointment and carry the ingredients for it on the Shabbat, is what they were saying. And so,
Well, if there was an error,
huh?
an error, how, even in Spro Hill, Greenfield.
Right. Well, that's
You got
just
the
that's
line.
them just creating their borders there, right? And so, I guess if you have that, that's one thing. But I think that the idea ends up being that the thought process is that if a thing was, it says, also they say, as with all diseases, the principle that Sabbath healings are only permitted for acute and life-threatening cases, but not for chronic diseases. And so the healing of the blind man, therefore, had to appear to the scribes as a desecration of the Sabbath. Because this guy's always been blind. He didn't just become, it wasn't like something happened just right now and then he became blind just right there and then you dealt with what just happened. But if he was chronic, if he had a chronic illness, you could have just waited until like Sunday to do it. Right? You didn't have to do it just right now. But if it was something that just happened right now, then you could deal with it. Like, this is the thought process that they had, all outside of the Torah, by the way. But I'm just saying, this is the thought process that they have, that there's certain limitations on things that you can do. The scripture talks about if you're walking along and your ox falls in the ditch, get the thing out. Just, you could get it's something that's right now. It's something that's happening right now. It's funny that people talk about this idea of ox in the ditch. But the idea is that it's emergency circumstances that you're dealing with right now, not something that you could have did before or that you could do after.
Or something pertaining to life. So if he was like, stabbed, then
Yeah, you wouldn't just wait, well, he's gonna bleed out or I'm gonna do something about it, right? And so, but the idea is something, imminent danger being addressed. And so the thought process is that, this guy been blind. There's no imminent danger.
he could have been blind for a few more hours.
He could have, yes, or till tomorrow, just gonna be blind. From their frame of reference. And so these ones are calling him, they're saying that he's a sinner. He's not guarding the Shabbat. But I'm saying all that just to say, inside of the thought process, different ones agree and disagree with each other. And so one might say what he did was out of bounds, but then one might say what he did was fine. And so I'm saying that when people nowadays, mainstream Christianity, look at Yeshua and say, oh, he diminishes the Sabbath because he breaks it, so therefore we don't have to honor it because Yeshua didn't honor it. Because they're looking at what these people are saying as if what they're saying is that he's breaking the actual Torah, what the Most High said. But that's not what he's doing. He's breaking these people's, he literally is breaking their oral traditions that even they themselves don't have an orthodoxy in regards to various things. Like the whole thing is different people's points of view on what you can and cannot do and why. But if you don't have an understanding as to that from a cultural perspective, you look at this and say, oh, see, the Pharisees even know that he broke the Sabbath. And so therefore, what do we have to worry about it for when Yeshua don't honor it? This is what people say.
So they really had a problem with him making that clay.
Huh?
They really had a problem with him making that clay. I guess they had two problems. The first problem was he made something on the Sabbath.
Yes.
And the second problem was he healed somebody else.
Yes, which was something that they didn't do regularly. But we cannot say that, this is why it's important, because you can't say that Yeshua actually sinned. Because for him to do so, they're right. For him to do so kind of disqualifies him of being who he says that he is. If what they're saying about him is true, then how can he then be the Messiah? He can't be. But this is the point. This is because what they're accusing him of is breaking this oral tradition and not the actual Torah. Okay. Where do we read down to? Let's see here. Okay, so this is the Pharisees. The Pharisees have a problem, as usual, with what it is that Yeshua is doing. Okay, read down to, from 17 down to 23.
So they said to the blind one again, what do you say about him because he opened your eyes? And he said, he is a prophet. However, the Yudim did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind and received his sight. So they called the parents of him who had received his sight. And they asked them, saying, is this your son? Who are you to say was born blind? How then does he now see? His parents answered and said, we know that this is our son and that he was born blind. But how he now sees, we do not know. Or who opened his eyes, we do not know. He is of age, ask him. He shall speak concerning himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Yudim, for the Yudim had already agreed that if anyone confessed that he was Messiah, he should be put out of the congregation. Because of this, his parents said, he is of age, ask him.
Okay, very good. So now there's almost like there's this investigation that's going on, and they're trying to figure out what is this thing that's going on. This guy said he was blind, and now he could see. Who did it? What do you think about this guy? All of these things. They're refusing to accept this particular thing that happened. It's interesting that Yeshua at this point has done so many things, that there's so much kind of emphasis on this thing. I guess maybe because of his location. A lot of things that Yeshua does happens up north. You're right, in Galilee and around Capernaum, where he is from. You know, remember he's still down in in the vicinity of the temple at this time. He hasn't made his trek back, up north, and so. This I guess is what they have to deal with, as a result of where he is, and the word's going out. Don't nobody sit up here and try to believe in this guy. He don't hold to our traditions. If you sit up here and try to believe in him, you can't be part of the congregation. The people, the parents are able to say, well, yeah, that's our son. Yeah, he was blind, but that's all I could say about it. If you want to ask somebody, you can ask him. I thought that was kind of funny. But it's interesting that, again, when we look at it, because this is the same kind of a thing that happened in the previous chapter when you see that the Pharisees are like so adamantly against the things of Yeshua. These things that he's doing, that's he's healing people. He's causing blind people to see. He's causing lame people to walk. He's bringing healing to people, and then the Pharisees, the religious elite people, they have all these negative things to say about these things that the Most High is doing through Yeshua. And so they're unable really to see the spirit behind what's happening and what it is that Yeshua is doing, which really just shows the heart of the people. When you're obviously operating according to the Spirit of the Most High, and you have these people who, are saying that you aren't, when you most obviously are, one of two things is the case. Either they're right or you're right. But if you're right, then they can't be operating in wisdom. They can't be connected to the Spirit or following after it. Yeshua unarguably is doing the work of the Most High. Like it's not a question as to what it is that he's doing. And so the only thing that keeps these people from being able to see what it is that he's doing and agree is their carnal mind. The only thing that is keeping them on the outside is the fact that they're really not kind of in tune with the actual Spirit of the Most High. Obviously. Let's go over to 1 Corinthians really quick here. 1 Corinthians 2. Read 1 Corinthians 2, 6. Start reading at 6 and read down to 16.
1 Corinthians 2 and 6. Yet we speak wisdom among those who are perfect, and not the wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age that are being brought to naught. But we speak the wisdom of Elohim, which was hidden in a secret, and which Elohim ordained before the ages of our esteem, which no one of the rulers of this age knew. For if they had known, they would have not impaled the master of esteem. But as it has been written, eyes have not seen, and ears has not heard, nor have entered into the heart of man what Elohim has prepared for those who love him. But Elohim has revealed them to us through his Spirit. The Spirit searches all matters, even the depths of Elohim. For who among men knows the thoughts of a man except the spirit of the man that is in him? So also the thoughts of Elohim no one has known except the spirit of Elohim. And we have received not the spirit of the world, but the spirit that is from Elohim, in order to know that Elohim has favorably given us, which we also speak, not in words which man's wisdom teaches, but which the set apart Spirit teaches, comparing spiritual matters with spiritual matters. But the natural man does not receive the matters of the Spirit of Elohim, for they are foolishness to him, and he is unable to know them, because they are spiritually discerned. But he who is spiritual discerns indeed all matters, but he himself is discerned by no one. For who has known the mind of Yahweh? Who shall instruct him? But we have the mindset of Messiah.
So the natural man does not receive the matters of the Spirit of Elohim. You in your carnal mind cannot understand what's going on in the Spirit. All you see is carnality. All you see is what's going on, just what you see with your actual eyeballs and your retinas and all of these types of things. Spiritual things are happening to you. It's foolishness. You don't understand. And so when we look at what the way that the Pharisees are behaving as these things are happening, as the Most High is actually working through his son Yeshua in this world and causing the blind to see, and those that are in bondage to be freed, and the lame to be able to walk, and those that are dead to be able to walk. At this point, once I find out that Yeshua had raised people from the dead, I kind of believe in what I believe in. And I'm pretty sure that you can't convince me otherwise. Like, to me, once I see that this guy that we know, that been blind all this time, and you made him be able to see by putting some mud in his eye and telling him to go wash in the pool, and then he's able to see. Like, I got to be outside of my right mind to be able to try to make excuses to say, well, that's not. But the carnal mind, the natural mind, don't agree what's going on in the spirit. And it can't know. Spiritual things are foolish to you in your carnal mind. And this is when we look at the Pharisees in the way they are. Yes, they sit around and they read the scriptures, and that's all that they do. And you know, they're masters of doctrines and philosophies about the scriptures, but they have no idea of what it is that the Most High was actually doing right in front of their faces.
Just like a staple of thought to that, it's a text somewhere in Ephesians or something. It talks about without natural affection, and lovers of themselves. And one would think that, to your point, this man was blind. And if you were blind, would you want to wait another day to be healed? You know what I mean? Like, there's a preference, and I get the Sabbath, I get the rules of it, I get all of that, I do. But if you were blind, like, you know, the concept of loving your neighbors yourself, would you rather follow the rule that says that you made up, or like, yo, that man could see? What if it was your son? Like that day you would want it to happen. Like, and if it happened, man, look, I get the rules. I mean, even if you made them up, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Even if the creator said that man, and he didn't, but it's like it happened though. Like, I would want my son to be healed that day.
Yes, right now.
And if it was a friend of mine or some random person, I'd be rejoicing. Like, yo, that happened for you? Because I can always see. I mean, I've been seeing for a long time.
Right.
I would want that for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, that when you talk about without natural affection or, you know, lovers of your own selves,
Yeah.
yeah, it seemed a foolish matter. Like, this man broke the rules and he's not concentrating on like the rules, but it's just spiritual. So.
Right. And I think that's the point. That's the point here when we look at, you know, the relationship between Yeshua and the Pharisees, and anyone that's like the Pharisees, is that, you know, you have these people who, you know, are supposed to be like the standard of righteousness, but at the heart, you know, they're wicked.
Like, I know there had to be like some disabled people during that time.
There was that he made
So-
not disabled.
So say you got some disabled people around you, you gotta help them every day.
Yeah.
So what was their thoughts on that? No, I can't help you go to the bathroom because it's the Shabbat. I can't. I'm carrying you over to here, or doing this, or I'm getting this for you. That's so people just be, you know, going too far with stuff.
And I think that again, when we look beneath what it is that Yeshua is doing, the Torah itself teaches us to help those that can't help themselves. And it's interesting when we look at Yeshua, where he don't know what kind of, I mean, I guess he do know what kind of life the man's leading because he's Yeshua, but he didn't ask him. He didn't confront him on it.
Right.
It's irrelevant at this time. If this guy's blind, I'm going to heal him.
He didn't even ask to be healed.
Yeah, he just saw him over there knowing that he was. I think that he probably knew who he was just based on being Yeshua, but it was known that he was blind. And so if he's blind, he can't deal for himself. He can't provide for his own self. And the Torah literally, over and over again, talks about the orphan and the widow. These people, the stranger, these people who aren't able to help themselves. You provide for those that can't provide for themselves. And so over and over again, we see Yeshua coming along, seeing these people who are in need, and he meets their need. And then it just so happens that it's just the thing that's so amazing happens to them, and then they go along and just find out what is it to this guy who did this for me. And so they have this experience with Yeshua, this healing, this miracle. And then now, you want to hear what I have to say? Repent. Turn from your sin. And then so many times we look at people and say, oh man, you got all this stuff going on. You get yourself together and then come and check us out after you stop doing all this and that. But Yeshua, that's not how he operated. He said, be healed, be fixed.
To me, they was trying to judge the guy. It was like, who's saying? Like,
Even his own disciples.
Why can they be like, can you help this guy?
It didn't even have nothing to do with sin. Even his own disciples have this thought process, which was the idea. What did he do that caused him to be like this? But meanwhile, it's just for such a time as this for Yeshua to come along and bring life to his death and transform him in front of everybody for the glory of the Most High. And so when we look at this whole thing, kind of bringing it down to a close, and we see the fact that the Pharisees repeatedly, they go back and forth a few more times, repeatedly trying to kind of nullify Yeshua and his works and discount who he is.
Why did they say, do you wish to become his top ones too?
To me, that's funny because it's like, you got all these questions to ask, he's doing the work of the Most High. The logical thing for them to do is to be like the people who believed and this beggar here who, by the way, when he says that too, I feel like he's won over. Obviously, he's won over by what just happened to him.
Definitely.
So I'm a disciple based on that. You want to be one too? It's like, you got so much things to say. But they don't because of their own carnal minds. Because of the fact that, at this point, it don't matter what they see with their physical eyes or hear, they're not coming. And at the end of the day, I guess Yeshua's not coming for them. Those ones. Right? Because all they want to do is find reasons and excuses why they can't believe in who he says that he is. But everything that he does is proof that he is. And so at the end of the day, it's easy for us to be able to look at ourselves and see all the things that, is wrong with us, the things that we need, and, make excuses for why we can't do this or what's blocking us from doing that. But at the end of the day, Yeshua wants for us to look to him to be the one that frees us, to be the one that saves us, to be the one that actually brings life to us, and then life can start from there. He's not asking for these people first to get right. He's providing for these people first. He's meeting them where they are and dealing with them with their needs first. And then once that happens, repent. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times we out here and we say, well, I see that you break the Sabbath. Like you got this job and you sitting up here, you breaking the Sabbath. You can't really be doing like what we doing because we keep this Sabbath. You know what I'm saying? We ain't out here sinning. We living right the way the Most High has prescribed.
Toughen up.
But people need to be able to come to Yeshua and have that authentic experience with the Master before they can do anything unto the Most High. And we can't put the cart before the horse. The Most High don't want for us to be walking in sin. But the first thing we need to be doing is coming to the Master, Yeshua. And then these things fall off. The Most High make a way for anything. Somebody could easily have said to this guy, there's all of these things that you could be doing right now. Why you ain't doing it? Meanwhile, he's blind. He can't do anything. The guy who was crippled and couldn't go nowhere, and you wondering why. I mean, they literally called this man, they literally tied to him and said that he was I didn't like this part. Is this in verse 8? Is not this he who was sitting and begging? Like they ain't refer to him as the blind man, the guy who did have no choice to do anything other than sit and beg. But they referenced him as, oh yeah, that's the guy who just be sitting and begging. But what else could he do? Why couldn't he be, this is the guy that the people left here for dead? Because if he was really talking about living a life that's unto the Most High, somebody would pick the guy up and take care of him. If they're really trying to keep the Torah. But instead, they're trying to blame this guy for his thing that's outside of his control. You mean the guy who be sitting and begging? What else is he supposed to do? Go ahead.
I was thinking about how you will give money to someone like who doesn't have legs, who's begging, or has one arm and is on a crutch. Remember the guy that he had one arm and one leg? He was on a crutch. And you would give him money because he has like half of his limbs on one side. But then you got someone who's able-bodied, 17 years old, with a hat out, and it's like,
truthfully, I probably should do better about that because I've been looking at people and I'll be like, man, this guy's shoes look better than mine. And he out here, I have a thought. It's like I look at him and try to think about, should I? You know what I mean? Which I think I don't know if it's right necessarily. But I do it though. I look at him like he could really go and do something besides just doing this. And I make a decision in my mind like, should I even? But I'm not Yeshua though. I don't have this divine wisdom to know or don't know. I do things that's not right all the time. I don't know what to do. Did you?
I can understand that. So, my wife had an incident where this lady came to her and she asked, she needed money to get whatever, okay? So my wife honestly was like, well, I only have change. I can accept the change. So she went to give her the change. She looked at the change and said, you can keep that. But if you honestly are someone that's in dire need, you would take the change. So I had an incident where I was coming out of work and I saw this man across the street and I had a bag of chips. I didn't eat all day, so I had these chips. And I had another bag, And he came to me and he said, hey, could you spare me some change? I'm hungry. So I didn't think about it, but hey, I gave him, would you take these chips? And he took them. So I gave him this. And I gave him this. Here's the difference between somebody that's really wanting, he will accept what you give him. But I understand what you're saying. How do you discern who needs and who doesn't need? When you saw the man who got brand new kicks are better than mine. So I came to my thought that I'm gonna give you anyway, because even if I know if you don't want it and if you do want it, but if you're deceiving me, that falls on you, the individual, because you're tricking me. because I honestly am giving from my heart.
Yeah.
So the Father sees from my heart that I'm giving honestly, that's what I'm thinking, because that's what I would do to help someone. But it's on you if you're being deceived, take it on. That's how I look at it. So then in yourself, you feel good because honesty in your head, you're thinking to yourself, man, he might be tricking me, I ain't gonna give it to him. But then later down the line, you're thinking, hey, he didn't need help. So now you're beating on yourself like, hey, I should have just gave it to him. So my thought is, just give it to him anyway, because then your slate is clean. Because honesty in your heart, you wanted to give it to him, but then you think,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so the part of being deceived, I think deception is so rampant that it causes us to question the appropriate thing to do. And what I used to watch my mother do growing up, as a single woman with 6 male children, not even just children, male children, 8 to consume a lot of food. People would ask her, going to a food store or whatever, for food, fast food restaurant or whatever. And she would say to them, well, I won't give you any money, but you can come into the store and I will buy you something. And to the same point, she would watch a lot of people refuse. And I view how shrewd my mother was, and I began to employ some of those practices. No, I will certainly give you some food, and then I'll keep your receipt and tell the people at the store, don't return it. I'll think that you're up to something. And so the second point I think is like preparation giving. So because like homelessness is so rampant, judgment and deception. Judgment, to your point, is still like a new pair of sneakers could also mean he was at the shelter that day and he was giving out. And when I see a person, no, for real, we drop stuff off at shelters, and we try to drop off some good stuff, just not like stuff we don't care about. We try, right? But that challenges our perception because it's like, that man don't look like he homeless, or a fresh haircut, because homeless people have a profile. Like, you should look like this if you're destitute. But, to that point is like, the preparation. I remember my wife and I saying some time ago, she would leave us everywhere. Like, we're just gonna make bags at home on Sundays and leave them in the back of the car. So somebody says, oh, I'm so hungry, you take one of the bags that you prepared for. It has some tuna fish in it, some chips, this, that, and third. Because if you have some nefarious agenda,
We don't want that.
man, I'm not trying to fund that effort.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think the other ways to support, and everybody doesn't have time for this, but what's the actual issue? If you're 17 and you're homeless, or 22 and you're homeless, like, what is the issue? You take my number, maybe I'll help you get the job, or this, that, and third, but we can't give our way into a solution, per se. Because if you're homeless today and you don't fix the issues or support the issues that cause you to be so, like Yeshua fixed this issue.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I read. He fixed the issue permanently, so to speak, that caused the man to be in play. And we can help you get into a career. But every time I see you in the same corner, and I drive by this corner 10 times a month, and you out here 10 times a month.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, what are you doing?
I can't give my way into the solution.
I think that's a key point, that Yeshua here is not passing out Band-Aids, which kind of is what you would be doing by just having these little interactions with the person. That's not what Yeshua is doing. He's literally changing these people's lives. And I think that to some degree, I think if you're not actually doing it, maybe somehow take part in the doing of it, of like changing people's actual physical life, contributing to it. You do it to whatever measure that you're able to do it. But the example that we see with Yeshua, is that he's helping these people both from a physical standpoint and from a spiritual standpoint.
All right, so
Well,
now.
hold on a second. What was you gonna say?
I think you.
I want to read, this is my guideline when it comes to helping people. I use, if you want to pull up Sirach chapter 12. I'll read a few verses from here. Start at the top.
You can't be on that chapter. No, that's not the
That's the right one.
No, hold on.
I think you can't switch to the Apocrypha if you're in the New Testament.
Go to communicators meeting.
KJVA.
No, it's not, we don't.
KJVA. Yeah. There it is.
I don't know why I was on that.
Sirach.
101. When thou do good, know to whom thou doesn't it. So thou So shalt thou be thanked for thy benefits. Do good to the godly man, and thou shalt find a recompense, and if not from him, yet from the Most High. There can no good come to him that is always occupied in evil, nor to him that giveth no alms. Give to the godly man and help not the sinner. Do well unto him that is lowly, but give not to the ungodly. Hold back thy bread and give it not unto him, lest he overmaster thee thereby, for else thou shalt receive twice as much evil for all the good thou shalt have done unto him. For the Most High hateth sinners, and will repay vengeance unto the ungodly, and keepeth them from against the mighty day of their punishment. Give unto the good and help not the sinner. Now, that's what I use. If I can't have a conversation with you and see you as a person, what your intentions are, what you're trying to do, I'm not giving you my money, because if you got an addiction, I'm giving you money to feed your addiction that I'm taking that I can feed my kids with. I might, I might have a couple extra dollars, but my kids probably need that too. I need it. I got stuff I got to do. So we know that Yeshua came, but he was a discerner of the spirits to the core. A person can lie to you and say, I'm doing this. I'm going to take this money and go do this. And to your point, as you were saying, you don't know what they're going to do. I mean, really, the only person that could really take the benefit of the doubt, which he didn't have, he was beyond, if he didn't have any doubt, Yeshua didn't have any doubt, that's what I'm trying to say. Because he knew the spirit of the people that he was helping. And that, like I said, that's what I do. If I can't have a conversation with you and get your intention, because the thing is intention. You ride past a dude that's been there forever, what are you actually trying to do with your life? Is nobody really trying to help you? There's resources out here. Have you not heard of this resource or this or that? If you're not putting that effort in, why should I put in more effort to give you my resources when, like the scriptures say, you're multiplying that person's evil. So you're actually doing more evil to them. You know, that next hit, you probably pay for their next hit to kill themselves. So that's just usually, that's a scripture that one of the things that I learned how I go with me dealing with people who's down and out. Just want that part.
I remember situations during years past, where people, even in ministry and so forth, having a lecture bill. And after a while, I think the Creator gave us the prudence to say, well, send us the election bill. We're going to help, because we don't need to, obviously we're not good with money. We'll just take care of the bill. And it won't be regular, but, and sometimes the help is you need your electric cut off to fill out what it is in the car. Because maybe you living beyond your means, but you went to Disney World and your electric bill was due. That's not
Exactly.
I think it's different ways that And it doesn't say don't help people.
Right.
I think we aren't charged to do that. And in this case,
It said, give to the lowly.
it said open your hand wide to your poor brother. They knew where he was, they knew what he was doing regularly, and they knew where his parents were. Now bring that man to your house.
I know, like, if
Yes.
it's the Sabbath, why is he begging on the Sabbath? That's what he's breaking the Sabbath to. But, you know, he's working. But I mean, it's so sad that, like, you know, kind of skipping down, he got kicked out of the temple. He got kicked out of being part of that and of that system just because he was healed by the master. You know.
Yeah.
And they said you was completely born in sin. You're teaching us. I mean, that whole attitude, they just had a bad attitude, those people did. Like, it's crazy.
And I think that the key to looking at this, you know, as we conclude here, the key to looking at this is understanding that, you know, we really have to be so connected to Messiah that we're able to understand spiritual things when they're happening, which the Pharisees here obviously were not.
Yes.
And they give of us the perfect example of what it looks like to not be connected to what it is that the Most High is doing. You know, because when you see the Spirit working, it's not a guessing thing. Like you, by the Spirit, can see the Spirit. And so when it's not happening, the same thing is true. And so these people, you know, they're, you know, the Most High is literally working through Yeshua, and these people are totally blind to it, and they're just stuck in their you know, their mental spaces and their carnal understandings, and they can't see the Son of the living Elohim standing right in front of them. And so, you know, I think that, you know, we really have to be able to be so close to Messiah and have the Spirit working so much so in our lives that we're able to know the difference, be able to make that distinction between what the Most High is doing and what he isn't doing, and you know, and be aligned with the purposes of the Most High through Spirit. Again, which the Pharisees, of course, weren't. Well, for the most part, because we know that there were some that became followers as a whole. Okay, does anybody have any last questions, thoughts, or comments? Yes, go ahead.
So when we were talking about the Pharisees, the scripture that came to mind was forever learning and never comes to the truth. And having a form of godliness that denies power within whatever one you use.
Yeah, because you know, we live in this place in this time where information is everywhere. But I'm saying all information ain't necessarily knowledge. And definitely all knowledge isn't wisdom. And so, you know, the key thing is to be connected to the source, which is Messiah, and understanding that he gave us this Spirit to help us to be able to navigate in this place, to strengthen us and to shield us from things that are going on, and to help us to move in the direction that he would have for us to move. So, all right, so that being said, I think that we will be done for now. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat to talk more about the words of the Master and also the Torah portion. But for now, we'll say Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.